to Go to Bloated, everybody. And if you are a college football fan, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. That is all we do here every single day. And send gear to represent your team and yourself to Go to Bloated. I guarantee you, if you send it to me, I will put it in my background. Send your gear to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. It is only week 4, and we've already had a wild college football season, and it continues. Week 4 has been wild so far. A lot of great games have been played. There's still some games going on and some games that are going to be played later on this evening, but the noon games and the afternoon games, some wild finishes. This is why we love college football. First off, I want to start off with Miami. They dropped to number 25 after losing to Texas A&M on the road, and they come back home and lose to Middle Tennessee 45-31. Miami was a 25.5 point favorite. You talk about letting a team beat you twice. This is what happened to Miami. They lost to Texas A&M. They knew they should have beaten Texas A&M. They were the better team. If you look at that game statistically, Miami was the better team, but they just couldn't get the ball into the end zone, and they lose 17-9 against Texas A&M. Come back home and lay an egg against a bad Middle Tennessee. There's a reason why Miami was favored by 25.5. Not because they're a great team, but Middle Tennessee is not a very good team. How does this happen? 45-31. First off, how does Middle Tennessee score 45 points on Miami? That is a terrible defense. Miami's going to drop out of the rankings, and if they keep playing like this, Miami might struggle to get to a bowl. Bad day to be a Canes fan. Staying in the ACC, undefeated Duke 3-0 on the road to undefeated Kansas 3-0. Is this a Twilight Zone? Basketball schools are actually having a decent year this year. Last night, Syracuse remained undefeated 4-0 after beating Virginia at home. This is absolutely nuts, and this was actually a great game. Kansas did come out on top 35-27, and I'll tell you what, if Kansas doesn't get ranked this week, then I am not looking at the AP Top 25 for the rest of the year. Kansas is 4-0 with road wins over West Virginia, Houston, and now a good, not a great win, but a good win over an undefeated Duke. That should earn them a spot in the AP Top 25. If they don't get in the AP Top 25, there's something very wrong going in the rankings. Keeping the craziness going. What about number 5 Clemson at number 21 Wake Forest? It took overtime to decide this, but it was decided in Clemson's favor. They won 51-45, and they put over 500 yards of offense on Wake Forest. I'm telling you, Wake Forest does not have a good defense. This is a good win for Clemson, but they still haven't played a halfway decent defense. How can we tell if Clemson's offense is taking a step forward if they don't play anybody with a pulse as far as having a defense? Well, next week in Death Valley, they will play a team that has a good defense, and that's NC State. In fact, I will do a preview on that game in front of Death Valley. Lucky for me, I only live about 10-15 minutes away from Death Valley, so I'm going to make my short trip over there and give you a nice preview. But for now, Clemson remains undefeated, and they will at least stay in the top 5 because a road win over a top 25 team, it will be honored. Although Wake Forest, not a good defense, great offense. Wake Forest almost put 500 yards of offense on Clemson, so this was a very big back and forth battle. Clemson comes out on top. It is a good win, I have to admit, but against a bad defense. Let's keep this in context, okay? Next up, number 17 Baylor. Their offense not looking great, but they go on the road and get a decent win over an undefeated Iowa State 31-24. Not gonna lie, this one surprised me a little bit. I thought Iowa State had taken enough step forward to where they could beat Baylor at home because Baylor has not looked good offensively. I was wrong. This was a good game. Iowa State did have their moments. They had their chances to win this football game, but they just couldn't score enough points, and that's how this game is decided. Points. So Baylor wins, but they still have some issues on offense. Can they fix that before they get into the meat of the Big 12? Because they're going to face some crazy good offenses. I'm talking about West Virginia. I'm talking about Oklahoma. Even Texas Tech has a good offense. Ask Texas. I'll get to that game here in a minute. What about Georgia, though? Georgia comes out and plays Kent State, a 40-something point favorite, and they only win 39-22. The biggest thing that really pops out on the screen for this is Kent State putting up 22 points. The past 3 opponents combined have scored a total of 10 points on this Georgia defense. Oregon scored 3 points, Stanford scored 0 points, and South Carolina scored 10 points. Kent State puts up 22 points. In what universe, in what world does that make sense? I'll tell you, the college football world, because you never know what's going to happen. Georgia still wins, but my gosh, allowing 22 points against Kent State is kind of funny, not gonna lie. Another crazy game that had a really good ending is number 15 Oregon at Washington State. The final score is 44-41. Bo Nix 33 for 44, threw for 428 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. The score was 34-29. Washington State was on top, and the refs missed an obvious personal foul face mask, which would have kept Washington State's drive going, but they missed it and they had to punt. Oregon scores a touchdown, and then they score another touchdown. Washington State scores a touchdown with 5 seconds left to make it within 3. Thank you, Washington State. You didn't allow Oregon to cover, so I won that spread pick, so it does mean something, but in the grand scheme of things, they still lose by 3. Listen, officials need to be held accountable for these horrible calls and these horrible no calls. There's some things by definition can't be reviewed. It's called non-reviewable. Why is that? Why can't they be reviewed? And I'm not talking about little ticky-tack things and make the game last forever. This was obvious. It was a face mask. It should have been reviewed, and a flag should have been thrown. Penalties that are not called should be reviewed, especially if it's obvious. It affected the game. Yes, Washington State still need to play defense and kept Oregon out of the end zone, but still, it would have kept the drive going, and Washington State probably could have put up at least a field goal, maybe a touchdown, and put this game away. Nope, no call. Oregon wins. The officiating needs to be held accountable. And finally, the game that is featured prominently on the title of this video, number 22, Texas at Texas Tech. And of course, as you can see, I do have my horns down shirt. The final score is Texas 34, Texas Tech 37. This was a wild game. The running back for Texas had a phenomenal game. Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the nation. 16 carries for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 very costly fumble. Quarterback Hudson Card had to play because Ewers is still injured. He was 20 for 30, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And the quarterback for Texas Tech, he had himself a day. Donovan Smith was 38 for 56, 331 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Texas Tech was throwing the ball all over the place. Texas had 426 offensive yards. Texas Tech had 479 offensive yards. Texas 20 first downs. Texas Tech 31 first downs. So looking at the stats, the best team did win. The better team that played today did win. But the last 30 seconds of this game, okay, so Texas Tech kicks a 45-yard field goal with 21 seconds. Well, Texas moves the ball down towards field goal range with 1 second left, and they hit a 45-yard field goal to send this game into overtime. Texas Tech won the coin toss, so they deferred and made Texas play offense first, and that was big right there. First handoff to Bijan Robinson, and he fumbles the ball. Texas Tech takes over. They try to punch it into the end zone and end the game like that, but they had to settle for a field goal. Hey, a win's a win, and Texas Tech walks off Texas 37-34. Big win for Texas Tech, and yet another demoralizing loss for Texas. When are they going to get it all together? A couple weeks ago, they were so close to beating number 1 Alabama, 1 point shy. They lost 20-19. Oh, Texas is almost back. We only lost by 1 point to Alabama, the number 1 team in the nation, Alabama. And then they go on the road and lose to Texas Tech. God, oh man. There is too much money, there is too much talent in Austin, Texas for them to be losing games like this. You can't lose games like this. I'll tell you what, Kansas is not a gimme win this year. I don't know if you'll get revenge. Kansas is really good, and you have to go to Lawrence. So you better get up for that game because it's going to be a tough game. I don't think there's any gimme games on the schedule for the Big 12 for any teams. West Virginia, I know their defense is questionable, but they're looking better, and they have a great offense. We saw Iowa State today. Didn't take a step back like I thought they would. Texas Tech just beat Texas. Oklahoma looks like a playoff team. Baylor does have some offensive issues, but they're still a good team. Even Kansas State, who lost to Tulane last week, they can be a good team from time to time. Then there's Kansas. Not a gimme game this year. Kansas could be one of the best teams in the Big 12, and TCU is also looking good. The Big 12 is stacked from top to bottom. No, I didn't forget about you, Oklahoma State. Your offense is actually much better than your offense last year, but your defense has taken a step back, but you're going to be a difficult out as well. Buckle up, Big 12 fans. This is going to be a very bumpy ride, but a fun ride. So y'all let me know in the comment section which one of these games was the most entertaining game of the day. I mean, the list is crazy. This list is crazy. Oh, I forgot about number 20, Florida, at number 11, Tennessee. Tennessee did pull off the victory, 38-33, but it took every ounce of offense they could muster up. Florida had 594 yards. Tennessee had 576 yards. No defense was played. This was absolute no-show for both defenses. The offenses were great, but the defenses were absolutely horrible. But you know what? With that number 20 beside the name Florida, this is going to look like a great win for Tennessee, and they will be bumped into the top 10. That's just how it goes. Somebody please explain to me why Billy Napier, the head coach for Florida, was in a bad mood pretty much the entire length of the game. I mean, he was throwing a fit over there. The coaches had to pull him back, keep the officials from throwing a flag on him. And it translated over into the players. If you look at the players, they were in the bad mood the entire game. That's on the list as well. Which one of these games was the most entertaining game of the day? And we have more games, so I might have to do another video later on this evening, so stay tuned for that. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.